Alrighty, we can get started now. I want to say thank you for everybody that's joining right now, and thank you to Gail, Roxanne, Jessica, and John for jumping in on this webinar. We truly appreciate everybody's help in trying to get out all the information we can. This is a USDA beginning farmer and rancher resources. I will let everybody else introduce themselves, as they can do a lot better job than I can right now. So we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you, Shatil, and certainly thank you to IAC and Kelsey.
I should introduce myself too. I'm awful at that. I'm Shatil Fearman. I'm the Natural Resources Program Assistant for the Intertribal Ag Council. I work really closely with Kelsey Ducheneau. She unfortunately can't be on the call right now because she's busy running around doing a lot of other things like she usually is. So we can get started.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Shatil. Yes, because you are just as important, and it's fun to see you again. And we miss having Kelsey here, but certainly she is on board with this, and we thank her for hosting for IAC and you to host this, so we get an opportunity to share with our new farmers, our beginning farmers and ranchers out there who are joining, just some of those things we've got going on to navigate all of the USDA resources. USDA did stand up a team that has efforts focused on serving beginning farmers and ranchers, so I'm very excited today. Special treat, you're actually going to get to meet each of the team members and hear from them when they talk about their agency's programs and some things to highlight for beginning farmers and ranchers. So we do have them on. I'll tell you about them here as we get started. But we just really want to provide our beginning farmers and ranchers with the tools and resources they need to be successful. So from access to the capital, through our farm loans, or the one-on-one conservation planning assistance, we have staff in 55 USDA service centers across the state ready to help you. We have farm loans. You're gonna learn about risk management, disaster assistance, conservation programs, all sorts of things to support producers and especially beginning farmers and ranchers. And then special ones we're gonna talk about today and highlight within each agency, targeted funding through our farm loans, crop insurance benefits, crop insurance, or conservation benefits as well. So here's my team. At least you'll see the names and some contact information for them. If you need to reach out, you can certainly contact myself. I'm coordinator. We've got Jessica Mahalski from NRCS, John Lockey from RMA, and Roxanne Woodring from Rural Development, all here in South Dakota that make up our team to share this information. So they're I coordinate, but they're my specialists and they're on to be able to share specific program information. So we're going to jump in and I'll do some overview. I'll talk in general USDA, and then of course, I'll move into farm loans and farm programs with FSA because that's where I come from. And as we go, I'll let them tell about themselves too as they jump on. But first, let's just talk about some general USDA things that are good for you to know. So a big question always comes up is, what's a beginning farmer? Who is a beginning farmer? Am I a beginning farmer? So the USDA definition is that 10 years is what we look at. So new to farming or ranching, or has operated a farm or ranch for less than 10 years, you would fall into that category of being called beginning farmer. And in the last census that was done in 2017, 27% of farmers were categorized as new or beginning producers. And then there's some other surveys out there that show that as many as 25% of beginning farmers do not have a farming background. And that's okay. I bring that up to tell you that that's all part of it as well. I hope there's actually brand new farmers out there today. And many producers we find do not actually, what we would say, inherit a relationship with FSA or USDA, meaning their parents didn't have an established relationship already as a USDA customer. So there's a lot of you out there as well. Some of you may have experience with our programs and wanting to know more, and some of you are just absolutely brand new getting into this, and that's okay. So how do we start? And that's part of the navigating today. What I hope we can help you at least get started and get those tools. So the first one is always meeting with your local staff, your USDA service center. If you don't know where it's at, I've got a link on there for you, or contact one of us and we can connect you with your service center. And I always put the farmers.gov and the New Farmers website on there, because I feel people, especially nowadays where we're not out and about as much, we're working from home, we're working remotely, we're not traveling or doing anything, and they're saying, how can I look it up on the computer? So if you go to this farmers.gov and then New Farmers, and then guess what? The next slide is going to show you what you could actually find on there, a discovery tool. This is USDA, okay, because remember here, we're going to talk about the programs with US Department of Ag, from several agencies to help you be a successful new and beginning farmer. So this, I don't think you'll be able to see my little screen. So here is where I did a screenshot. This is really for real what it looks like. If you go to that new farmers.gov and New Farmers, and then you're able to answer some questions, and it'll tell you what programs might be and information might be helpful to you. So I really encourage you to check that out. Some business mentorship that's available for beginning farmers and ranchers as well. And I'll show you that on my next slide. That's partnering with Small Business Administration and SCORE. If you've heard of them, SCORE has free mentoring they offer to farmers, ranchers, and ag business owners. And you can go to either through our page, or if you search SBA or SCORE, Google that, and you will find how you can get hooked up with a SCORE mentor. And they have a wide range of backgrounds that they will hook you up with something. We're starting to think outside the box. It's not necessarily corn, beans, cattle. Okay, it might be vegetable production. It might be fruits, something that you're growing, something different. And they have people nationwide that our resources could connect you with as a mentor. So I really suggest that, because remember I said it's free. They help with business planning, maybe writing that if you're really getting started, or if you're needing to make some improvements or expand as well. You don't have to be just a new or beginning farmer. It just gets someone else involved who has experience and helps offer some guidance and advice. So another thing I would say in general is get informed, stay informed about what's going on. And so I showed on this screen here, if you go to this page and go to USDA.gov, and you'll scroll way to the bottom, and it'll have this little box here that says sign up for updates. When you do that, you'll put in your email address, the next box over, and then the email list, I didn't print them all, but there's one that specifically says new and beginning farmers and ranchers. So click on that button and let's keep you informed and notify, and this is all of USDA. Now, each also of our agencies would have opportunities that you could subscribe to listen to just FSA information, receive just FSA, RD, those sorts of things are available as well. So I encourage you to at least start with this. And then when you contact your county office, if you want to say, hey, how do I make sure I'm finding out about more programs or different things? That's where all my 2LF team can help in those offices get you signed up. But I just think it's important that especially once you get going, if you want to know new information we're throwing out there, let's get you signed up to receive those updates. So now this is the portion where I get to talk about the Farm Service Agency. Oh, yep.
We have a question.
Yeah.
It's from Annie Alvarado. She said, do you have any programs to help farmers with grant writing and compliance?
Oh, so that's a really good question. With the grant writing part of it, so a couple things, depending on what you're doing with your operation, the Value Added Ag Authority in South Dakota may be great to help you write grants. If I'm not mistaken, I know Roxanne might be able to discuss that later too, if you have more questions, but yes, that, and so we can put you in touch, or if she wants to email me and we can get contact information. Another one might be the Small Business Administration and going through the SCORE mentors to help with the business plan and the writing. Yeah, so that's a great question, and thank you, because I'm a little careful of what I'm doing and clicking on here, so thank you for bringing that up, because I don't necessarily see those when I have my whole screen up. So yep, we can provide some resources, not necessarily maybe each of us, but we can connect them with someone, and especially depending on that, if it's that additional value added, yeah, there can be help for that. So that was a really good question. Okay, I'm going to go on to Farm Service Agency, FSA. You're going to hear lots of letters from us, acronyms. We've got them for everything. Every agency has them. And so just keep in mind, we're going to do a high overview and you know, I could talk about these for days. We could each do our own session on our programs. We've got so many things, but we tried to give an overview and then pull out those things that are you know, applicable to you. And so I do work for the Farm Service Agency. In addition to coordinating our USDA beginning farmer rancher team, I handle state outreach coordinators duties for South Dakota FSA. And then I work full time as a senior farm loan officer. And I've been doing that over 27 years. I'm in the Brookings office. So certainly when we get to the loan aspect of it, that's what I've been doing. But certainly I get to share about all programs that we have. And just keep in mind, if you have questions, sometimes, like I said, go into your local service center and with specific questions about your operation is really the best place to start. But we can certainly, as we go, if there's questions, if you're, you know, raise your hand thing on the slide or chat, and Ms. Shatil can let me know. Otherwise, when we get done with FSA, we can take a little break and see if there's FSA questions, and then we'll move into Jessica, if that sounds all right. So here's the type of different programs that we have just within FSA. So we got safety net programs, price support, disaster assistance, which obviously that's something we're seeing a lot now with some of our programs and ad hoc programs like the CFAP, the Coronavirus Assistance, Food Assistance Program we have, farm loan programs, and then conservation programs. So I'll just talk just a little bit about each one of those, what types of things. So price support programs, and honestly, we may have several other ones. I picked the ones that are probably most applicable for what we're doing. And there may be more, but this just gives you an idea. So the safety net programs with the ARC and CO. So again, it's acronyms, but if you hear them talk about this, is the ARC and the PLC, they're going to provide income support. And they're tied to historical base acres and not production. And so just different programs. And right now, if you hear about the farm program payments, this is it. Okay, this is the safety net programs we're offering. You enroll in them every year. They were authorized by 14 in the 2018 Farm Bill. Similar, it's just a few changes, but if you hear about the farm program payments for FSA, that's what it is. It's our safety net to provide some income support. Okay, and then we're going to talk about our price support programs. And these are, so marketing assistance loans, or if you hear them called grain bin loans, or commodity loans. This is just some interim financing we can provide at harvest to meet cash flow needs. Because typically at harvest, not this year, but typically we see market prices are usually at harvest time lows. This time of year, we're not seeing that, but this is offer very low interest rates. And I say low, and I'm talking less than, you know, sometimes less than 1% right now. Our interest rates are very low. And then also, we would have a farm storage facility loan program. And keep in mind, this isn't necessarily just for corn and beans. Okay, this program could be used if you're out there where you have hay supplies. If you're producing hay and you need a hay shed, check into this program, because again, it's low interest loans to help you store your commodities, and also handling facilities. And they've improved that, increased the program too. That includes some different sort of transportation things, and drying and handling storage equipment is also available. And that could include storage and handling trucks as well. So consider that if you're needing a place to store your commodities. So FSA has disaster assistance programs, and I'm only going to cover on one of these on the next slide, but I tell this because these are going to come up. This livestock forage program, the LFP, that is triggered with a drought, okay? And so when you suffer grazing losses, and so unfortunately I know like Southwest South Dakota, we've got some drought going on, or if there's fire and it's on native or improved pasture land. And so like right now, I believe it's Oglala, Lakota, there would get a 3-month payment available. However, you do need to go in and apply for those programs. Livestock indemnity program, the thing you need to know about this is for if you have livestock losses from a disaster, adverse weather, but you need to contact FSA within 30 days of the death of those livestock. So just keep that in mind. We do have deadlines and timeframes. The emergency assistance for ELAP, ECP compensation program, that would be if we had to do, like if the land itself was damaged and needed conservation practices. But the one I want to tell you folks about, mostly to highlight of the disaster programs, is the NAP. So non-insured disaster assistance program. Yes, it's called NAP. I'm sure right after lunch right now, when we have you on our lunchtime, yeah, you're thinking NAP, but we call it NAP. And so I want to bring this up because this provides assistance for non-insurable crops. And I know that out west, producers are using this more than in eastern and South Dakota. The deadline to apply for next year is March 15th of 2021. And the last bullet I have there is beginning and socially disadvantaged farmers. So in Indian country, our native producers, you would fall under that as well. And our beginning producers are eligible actually for a waiver of the service fee and a 50% reduction in the premium. And you self-certify this on this 860 form, okay? So just consider NAP as well if you are wanting to insure those crops that you're not able to get other coverage on. And I know, like I said, just here out west, I hear today they're being able to take advantage of this program, could get a little bit of buy-up coverage as well. Crops intended for grazing are not eligible. And like I said, it's just important to remind you that you could qualify for a waiver of the fees. Okay, now we're going to get into farm loans, and I could do a whole presentation just on our farm loan programs because there's so many different eligibility, but I'm not. I got just a few slides because I got great stuff coming from the other agencies here. So
we have a couple more questions.
Oh,
that
okay.
What you just were talking about. One of them was, have you heard or have been denied loans from other lenders before you can access the FNS loans? Is that true? And if so, why is this?
Oh, so this is what I'm talking about right here on this slide. So this is perfect time with loans. I think, are you talking about FSA loans? I need you to turn your mic up just a little bit because I can't get to mine. I feel like I'm shouting at you and I don't mean to be. Oh, that's better.
I'll re-ask it. Have you heard of have you been denied loans from other lenders before you can access it says FNS, but I might be FSA loans.
Yeah.
And is that true? And if so, why is this?
Okay. So we want to be the lender of, let's say, first opportunity for many new and beginning farmers. Okay. And so how this works is, from a standpoint, you don't necessarily have to be denied the first time you come to FSA. But however, if you're able to get credit elsewhere, you're not eligible for our programs because typically we are helping the producers that are not able to obtain commercial credit from a private lender at reasonable rates and terms like you would normally apply for. But you don't have to have that before walking in our doors. You could come in, if we look at your information and think, oh, you might meet the underwriting criteria of a commercial lender. Uh-oh, my connection isn't. Oops, I'm getting a message here. I hope it's working. Then we would look at it. If we thought you could get other credit, we may ask you to seek financing. If you got it from the bank, that's fine. We'll move on and help the next one. If not, then that's okay. You're eligible. You come back and you provide that documentation. Say, hey, I tried. I'm not able to get credit elsewhere. We need to come to FSA. So I hope that answers that. That's not a prerequisite, but every loan application we look at, we do need to do what we call a test for credit. Is, do you need to be with us? And typically, beginning farmers and ranchers do. We do, you know, if you get into lenders, you need a down payment, security requirements. And so that's why, in fact, the next bullet I'm going to talk about is we actually target a portion of our lending of all the loan funds categories we have for financing beginning farmer and rancher operations. We also have a separate funding for socially disadvantaged applicants as well. So certainly in Indian country, we would want you to voluntarily provide that information on the application. But by doing that, either that or providing how many years you've been farming, we can offer you targeted assistance. Last year in South Dakota, 61% of our farm loan programs in South Dakota were made to beginning farmers. So we're at over half. And that's a goal for us as well. That's, you know, they put more than 50% or at least 50% even in the pot, and then we hope to make more loans. So, you know, that's why we want to be kind of that opportunity where you can come here. We don't require you to have, you know, all that history, all that backing, all that relationship already, or be inheriting things. This is an opportunity to get you started. And so with that, this is, you know, I love this stuff we got on farmers.gov. I'm telling you, if there's a place to go, check out farmers.gov. It's not just FSA, remember. This is other program information within USDA. But if you go to this Farm Loan Discovery Tool, is what it's called, you'll scroll down and you click the little button that says start, and then you answer questions. And then when you get done, it's going to tell you what type of loan you may be eligible for, have the application information and everything. So very handy. There's lots of things you can find if you're just in the exploratory stages of things. And then always call us too, but I think there's lots of good tools out there where you can be searching and go into that farmers.gov. So let me talk about a couple of our loan programs, just a quick overview for you. The first one is our farm operating loans. Just like it sounds, we're going to help you operate, pay operating expenses like seed, feed, out there, cash rent maybe, fertilizer, those sorts of things, purchase livestock and equipment. The livestock could be cows, bulls, it could be breeding livestock. And we do those loans over 7 years, or like equipment, you need a tractor and a baler, maybe you're putting up your own hay. Same thing, we do those over 7 years as well. And our interest rate for farm operating right now is 1.25%. That is a fixed rate for the life of the loan, which is great. We do not compete with lenders. We just have very favorable rates right now as well. And typically we always are a little bit less. Our farm ownership loans is just like it sounds. You want to purchase land, purchase real estate, or maybe expand, maybe buy a building site. That's going to be your headquarter unit where you're going to calve out your cows. Also construction or improving some of those farm buildings could be included, and that's a 600,000 max. So a couple different loans there. Farm operating or farm ownership, the real estate rate right now is 2.375, again, a fixed rate, and we go up as many as 40 years on those. So something where we, remember if we talked about it, at the beginning, I said sometimes beginning farmers need that access to capital. That's where FSA can come into play with that. And then this is another great place to start, our microloans. Just the other program I'm going to talk about as far as actual loan dollars, it's a $50,000 max. So it's really great place to start. It gives you have that comfort level rather than making a $500,000 loan. Can we do a $50,000 loan? Maybe you've got a scenario where you have parents having cattle and you want to have some of your own, maybe add 10 cow-calf pairs to the operation or start raising some of your own crops. Let's just do a small micro loan. And it's meant to be for that, kind of those unique needs we have as small beginning farmers, maybe niche farmers, something different we can fall under here. And guess what, the best part, simplified application process, less paperwork, just a way to get you started and get you going with FSA. So we do a lot of those for beginning farmers. Last payment or last loan program that relates to beginning farmers and socially disadvantaged would be our down payment program. And the down payment program is only for beginning farmers and socially disadvantaged ranchers, beginning farmers and ranchers. And the applicant must make that 5% down. And then FSA loans up to 45% with a little calculations of what our dollars can be. The term's 20 years and then 1.5% interest rate on our loans. So if you hear people talking about 1% money, this is probably the program they're talking about, but it's actually 1.5%. And the balance of the money comes from a lender or private party. We do see a little bit more of this if you're able to put some money down because there's less security requirements. We only take a lien on what you're purchasing. We don't get involved in non-essential assets. And if the cash flow allows and it works out, this is a great program. And again, it's just for beginning farmers and ranchers. However, keep in mind, for our real estate type debt like this, you do still need to have a minimum of 3 years operating a farm or ranch. So yeah, you're beginning, but we want to see you've got some experience in it when we go into these big dollars for real estate purchases. And lastly, I just want to talk about our conservation program. So CRP is what we call it. And that is a competitive sign up, and there is a general sign up coming up in January. The next one may be more applicable out in that area as well as the Grassland Reserve Program. I do think I'm going to work with Kelsey on something on that as well to get more information out. The sign up begins in March. And, you know, as I put on there, it's helping operators protect grassland and certainly rangeland and pasture land and still being able to have areas to graze. So just encourage you to look more into that. And as you can see, that's where you kind of have to have this roadmap to success. It's kind of like, okay, well, maybe I need to get my loan to get started, but hey, maybe I can use the Grassland Reserve Program to see how I can graze, you know, have a place for my cattle and How can I have some benefits receiving rental payments or annual rental payments from that? And then we're going to talk, when you get into these other programs, from my team here, of ways from other agencies that you can pull it all together in order to have a really sustainable, profitable operation as you begin. So are there questions? I get to wrap it up for FSA and turn it over to Jessica with NRCS. Are there any questions for me on FSA?
Yes, there was one through Facebook Live, and it says, is farming background defined as using modern ag practices / techniques, or traditional, cultural, and native practices too?
Yes, that's a very good question. Yeah, we just look at each operator or applicant separately, as long as we can show that there's been some management in history for that 3-year for our farm ownership, saying you made some management decisions of some sort with a farming or a ranching practice. That's what we're looking for. It doesn't necessarily have to be a typical Schedule F, but we have a form where you tell us your story, and that's where you're going to tell us your background. And so that's where it's important to put all that on there, and what what you've done, what kind of decision making. However, for that's only for real estate loans. If we're making an operating type loan or microloans that we talked about, we just see, hey, did you have some experience? Do you have a mentor with a microloan? We could just set you up with a mentor, or a grandpa or an uncle or a neighbor who's willing to help with that operation. So yeah, that's a good question. It's individualized. We just kind of see what we can pull from the background in order to make them eligible for our programs.
And then there was one more question before we wrap up your little section. Okay. It says, what is the interest rate for the microloan?
Oh no, it's cutting out a little bit. Sorry.
Oh, sorry about that. It says, what is the interest rate for the microloan?
Oh, great question. Same thing. Yes, the operating, the microloan is just a dollar limit on it. It would be 1.25%. So if we do a 7-year loan to get you going to increase your cattle herd or get your own cow calf, let's say, or sheep out there, something like that, we're at 7 years at 1.25%. Yep. And then we do have the microloan farm ownership, and again, that's our 2.375.
And then there is one more, and it's on Facebook. It says, how much history is needed? 1 year, 5 year, longer than that?
Okay, so again, basically we just ask for your experience when we're doing the operating type loans. The 3-year history, one of those years could be substituted with 16 hours of post-secondary education. So if you'd taken some coursework, some ag classes, let's say at a university or a technical school, that could actually be substituted. So that it just varies a little bit depending, I can't just say you gotta have 1, you gotta have 5 years. We don't have a minimum like that unless we're looking at real estate, where we need to show that you've made management decisions on a farm versus just being a hired labor provider. So yeah, good question, but we can work through that. And that's why a lot of times I say, we start producers with microloans or operating loans. We work with them for those 3 years. Let's say we help them get going, so then they can have their 3 years of history, get them established, be able to purchase real estate, and through our program, to use our direct farm ownership program, that's what we would like. So right now, that's the place to start, or even with microloans. If you just feel like that 50,000, yeah, that's plenty. Let's look at a smaller operation, and then maybe the next year you're borrowing, or the next couple of years you do even more. The whole max is 400,000 on operating type loan money that we can put out. So yeah, so sorry, I can't be like exactly clear 1 or 5 years. It depends on the program, and we will certainly work with finding what kind of experience you've had we can pull in to be able to get you started in something new. Anything else? Okay, then I will turn it over to Jessica. I'll let her introduce herself. She gets to talk about all these acronyms, NRCS. And then Jessica, I'm just gonna, when you get done, if we're good, I'm gonna advance for you, okay? Yeah, I'll try and follow you. How does that sound? Okay.
Sounds good. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Jessica Mahalski. I am the State Resource Conservationist for South Dakota NRCS. I've been with the Natural Resources Conservation Service for about 17 years now. So I have kind of been through the ranks. I worked in a field office most of my career, and then I most recently managed the Conservation Stewardship Program for South Dakota NRCS, and now I'm in the position that I am in where I oversee our state office technical staff. So those individuals that, like our state agronomist and our state rangeland management specialist, those are the individuals that I supervise, and I help write our guidance for South Dakota. So next slide, please, Gail. So some of the NRCS programs that I'm going to talk about today, you may or may not have heard of, but our foundation program is Conservation Technical Assistance. We have the EQIP program, which is probably one of our longest lasting programs in NRCS, and many of you have probably heard of it. The RCPP program is a new program. It is a standalone program now within the 2018 Farm Bill. The Conservation Stewardship Program has been around quite a while. And then we have our easement program. And finally, wrapping up with our water bank program. Next slide, please. Conservation technical assistance is really the foundation for what NRCS does to assist both landowners and operators. You know, really and this is true in all facets of life, really every good path forward begins with a good plan. And so, you know, that's really my encouragement to you all today, that if you are a new producer or new farmer or rancher, if you are assisting farmers and ranchers, you know that a good plan really is needed as you are going through and you know, making decisions for your operation. So when a producer walks in the door and visits with one of our NRCS field staff, we really want to have an overall look at their operation, talk to them about any natural resource concerns they have. Maybe they have some pastures that they feel are being grazed too heavily, or maybe they're missing some watering facilities that they need, or maybe they're seeing some soil erosion out on their land. You know, those are the types of things that we want to help new producers identify. And then we also, you know, utilize and make a lot of decisions based on the soils information for that particular land unit. We'll develop a conservation plan for meeting not only your objectives, but our recommendations as technical assistance professionals. And then we begin the process of really taking a look at what other potential programs there might be to help you with financial assistance. Next slide, please. The Environmental Quality Incentives Program, again, I said this is, you know, one of the programs that's been around quite a while. I believe it's since the '96 Farm Bill. It's a working lands program, and it provides both financial and technical assistance for farmers and ranchers to address those identified resource concerns like we talked about. And, you know, so this program, let's say you first walk in the door and say, okay, I've got some problems. I don't have enough. I don't have this. I need a watering facility in these couple of locations in these rangeland or pasture land fields. And we help you then identify, are there other practices that maybe, you know, would help in the overall grazing management out on that land? You know, is there cross fences needed? Is there some, you know, maybe a seeding that's needed, you know, something like that. And that's really what the EQIP program has been utilized for across the landscape and is very popular in South Dakota. The financing for the EQIP program has stayed about the same over the past several years. And we've, you know, been able to fund a lot of applications throughout the years. We do in South Dakota allocate 5% of our funds to a beginning farmer and rancher fund pool each year, but the beginning farmer and ranchers are also considered for other fund pools, and those are usually divided up geographically. So if you are, you know, for example, in the northwest part of the state and you're a beginning farmer and rancher, you're not only eligible for the beginning farmer and rancher fund pool, but you're also eligible for other fund pools as well. And then also beginning farmer and ranchers receive a higher payment rate for the practices that they install than non-beginning farmer and ranchers. So for example, if we have a payment rate that would generally be about 75% of the cost of a practice, beginning farmer and rancher might be eligible to actually receive up to 90%. That's just one example. Okay, next slide, please. The RCPP program, or the Regional Conservation Partnership Program, is a lot like EQIP, and we can do a lot of things as far as adding, adding practices to a producer's operation and to their land. The only difference between EQIP and RCPP really is the fact that we utilize conservation partners to hold a RCPP contract. So we might have a partner like Ducks Unlimited, for example, that writes an RCPP proposal and they hold that project. Another one is the Belle Fourche River Watershed Partnership. They have an RCPP project. And so they just assist us with technical assistance. And then again, those funds are given to the producers for implementation of those conservation practices. And here again, beginning farmers and ranchers can receive a higher payment rate than non-beginning farmers and ranchers. The Conservation Stewardship Program, this is developed from the Conservation Security Program a couple farm bills ago, and now it has really taken off in South Dakota. It's been utilized very heavily by our producers in South Dakota. And it's, again, a working lands program. And it's really kind of the next step after you have an EQIP contract. So let's say you come in, you do a conservation technical assistance plan or a conservation plan. Then you develop a plan that requires EQIP funding or can utilize EQIP funding. The next step really is to take a look at the management on a whole operation basis. And that's really what the Conservation Stewardship Program is about. And we decided several years ago in South Dakota that we were actually going to allocate 10% of our funds to a beginning farmer and rancher pool. We're only required nationally to set aside 5%, but we decided in South Dakota that it was critically important that we set aside 10% of our funds. And then again, beginning farmers and ranchers can also be considered for other fund pools. The ACIP, or Agricultural Conservation Easement Program, for wetland reserve easements, is for setting aside land around the wetland area, so the wetland area itself, and then around the wetland area into a easement that can be utilized to enhance the wetlands and also to increase wildlife habitat. And this is again a very popular program in South Dakota in certain parts of the state. And we have a lot of producers utilizing these easements to protect those wetlands and enhance wildlife habitat. And then the final program I'm going to talk about is the Water Bank program. Again, this is very popular in certain parts of the state, especially in the northeast part of the state. It's setting aside land that's, has been underwater and that adjacent land next to that. And producers receive basically a 10-year rental agreement to protect those wetlands, provide wildlife habitat, and seed back those uplands that are next to those wetlands. So I think that was my last slide, Gail.
Yep.
That's a pretty quick overview of NRCS programs. I wanted to make sure I saved enough time for our other presenters. So with that, I would definitely take any questions on any NRCS programs.
All right, so we did have one on Facebook Live. I'm not sure who he's it's pointed at right now, but it says, we're trying to start up a farm. Which program would we need to try?
Well, I think there's, from an NRCS aspect, I think the best thing, if you're just starting in the process, you're probably going to work with a farm service agency to maybe get some loans. You're going to want to, talk to them about getting enrolled in the farm program through FSA. And then, once you do that, most of our NRCS staff are co-located with our farm service agency staff. And again, they can then help you if you're interested in, any conservation planning of any kind to help improve the sustainability of your land and of your resources. Then come in and visit and we'll start the planning process. And it really just kind of goes, it's a moving target. It kind of, moves through where we start with a good plan and we can just help you with financial assistance programs. And so I definitely encourage anyone starting up in farming to do that. Any other questions?
I think that's all we had.
Okay.
Okay.
Who's next?
Thank you, Jessica. We're going to turn it over to John with Risk Management Agency. All yours, John.
All right. Thank you very much. Welcome aboard, everybody. I'm with the Risk Management Agency. My name is John Lockey. I'm a risk management specialist. Our agency splits up the states within the country as regions, and I'm actually in the Billings, Montana office. And I saw some folks are on here from Alaska and from Hawaii as well. The thing about the Risk Management Agency, it's a nationwide program. So and all these programs are nationwide programs, but you've got local people that you can talk to. So regardless if you are in Anchorage or you are in Lahaina or you are in Pierre, South Dakota, you have somebody that you can go talk to about these programs at the local service center for the USDA, where you see FSA, NRCS, and rural development in those service centers. For RMA, we actually have a step back away from that as we actually are the regulator, but there are crop insurance agents that sell it across the country. They always make us put a little disclaimer that I'm not going to change any policy or procedure with this, because what you do is you enter into an agreement with an insurance company, and it's just like your car insurance, that type of thing. So I'm not changing any policy and procedure any of these discussion points, but I'm not going to get real too deep into the details on any of the programs. I do want to we'll go to the next slide, and the next one is about the benefits for a beginning farmer rancher from RMA. And there's a couple things we'll do. If you come in as a beginning farmer rancher, we can waive the administrative fee if you're going to set up your insurance as catastrophic. So the lowest level coverage level, it's a $650 fee. We'll just take that away. You won't have to worry about paying that. And then if you decide to buy up and increase your coverage, you can get an additional 10% or 10 points of premium subsidy at no charge if you are a beginning farmer rancher. Go to the next slide, please. One of the things that as you're beginning farmer rancher, you may be working with somebody and you're helping them run their operation. You're taking maybe some managerial control, and then you're able to use their history to ensure, similar to like the safe driving record of your folks or something along those lines, that you would be able to use that safe driving record. In this case, if you're going to raise soybeans in South Dakota, you would potentially be able to use the history of the producer that you're working for, or someone that you are in family with. And again, increase the yield adjustment. So you can replace a low yield if you had an insured cause of loss. You can go from 60 to 80% of the T yield if you are a beginning farmer rancher. So just in case you had a bad year, you can substitute it with a transitional yield. Lots of jargon. All these agencies have lots of that. The next slide shows what the coverage levels are and the premium subsidy. Again, the catastrophic level, or CAT level is what we call it. It would be 100% covered at $655 as a flat fee. And it covers you at a 50%. But if you're going to go to a higher coverage level, say 55% or 60%, up to probably 70% is our normal coverage, then they're going to increase that premium subsidy another 10%. So the government just helps you get started a little bit and pays for that premium a little bit more. The next slide shows what the requirements are. You have to be a producer to be eligible. Your operation needs to meet the requirements of the policy, not be ineligible. Failure to pay debts to the government would make you ineligible, and not be on a death master list, which might seem strange, but there are people who are very much alive but ended up on the death master list. The next page shows, again, some more of the requirements that the crop meets the requirements of the policy. You have an insurable interest in the crop, meaning that you are a portion of that production. So you're materially involved in that production, and that the insurance is available. In South Dakota, we have a myriad of commodities that are insured. We're not going to insure macadamia nuts, for instance, in South Dakota, but we would insure those in Hawaii. We also insure wild rice in Minnesota, clams in the northeastern corner of the U.S., just a myriad of different commodities across the country. And if we don't have the insurance automatically in the county, we can do a written agreement as long as it fits within the requirement. We're probably not going to ever write a macadamia nut policy in Butte County, South Dakota. Just probably not going to happen. The next page is talking about the contract, which is the agreement between you and the insurance provider. And when you enter into that, either party has the right to cancel or terminate the contract at the end of the crop year. Once you enter into it, it continues on for the year. And if the contract is not canceled, then it automatically renewed for the next year. So it's a continuous policy for your typical crops, again, corn, wheat, beans, that type of thing. The contracts, again, entered into between the farmer and the AIP, and the farmer has to agree to insure all the eligible acreage in the county. You can't just decide, well, I'm going to insure these 20 acres of my corn and not insure the rest of the corn that you have in the county. You have to insure all of it in the county. The next page is the agreement showing that the AIP agrees to indemnify the producer against losses that occurred during the crop year and that are covered by the policy. It covers everything from insect, wind, tornado, that type of thing. But also we cover volcanoes and earthquake and hurricane, those type of things, so that it is a myriad of different things that happen. And again, it automatically renews unless terminated. The coverage level, it starts off with the lowest level, which is catastrophic level coverage. And then the crop, and you get indemnified if the crop loss is greater than 50% of your average yield. And again, entire premium is paid if you're a beginning farmer rancher. The buy-up coverage includes all the coverage level options greater than that cat level. The buy-up is anywhere from 50 to 85%. It generally doesn't get to that high, and only a few commodities will actually get covered to 85%. And then the farmer selects whichever percentage of what they would like. And it could be from 60 to 100% of the expected crop value. And you also see the yield or revenue guarantee is kind of our most popular coverage, and it goes from 65 generally to 70%. And those are the things that RMA does. Again, our numbers are on there, and we cover the country. If you happen to be in, as I see in Alaska, our Davis, California, or pardon me, our Spokane, Washington office has Alaska, and our Davis, California office covers Hawaii. And I've been trying to get them to send me to Hawaii for a long time, and I don't get sent there. I get sent to Eagle Butte, South Dakota, and I actually have a lot more fun in Eagle Butte. But if you have any questions, let us know.
Thank you, John. Are there any questions? You got anything coming through there, Shatil, for?
We do not. Oh,
okay.
Wait. Oh, it just says Maui welcomes you.
Oh, Maui. So he could go to Hawaii is what you're saying. Well, John, we aren't going to let you go. We'd have to go as a team, remember. We're a team.
I tell you what, Maui's a little slice of heaven. I'll guarantee you that.
Oh, shoot. Well, that's great. Very good. Now we're going to wrap up with our last agency. I will turn it over to Roxanne with Rural Development.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Yes, I am Roxanne Woodring, and I am a Rural Development Specialist, and I am out of our Aberdeen office. And today I'll be visiting with you about our programs that can help farmers and beginning farmers. USDA is committed to helping improve the economy and the quality of life in rural America through our programs. We help rural America in many ways. We have several different programs. One of the programs is single family housing. That's mainly my focus. We also have a multifamily housing program, and we have a community facility programs, water and waste programs, and then we have the rural business program. And that is what I'll be discussing 3 programs today, and that can help our beginning farmers. The 3 programs is the initial one is the Value Added Producer Grant, which is the VAPG program. Another one is the Rural Energy for America program, which is our REAP program. The other one is our Rural Micro Entrepreneur Assistance Program, which is called our RMAP. And as Gail said in the beginning, we have a lot of acronyms. So I'll be using the acronyms going forward because some of our programs are very lengthy. So next slide. Okay, Value Added Producer Program, which is our VAPG. With that, we help producers enter into a value-added activity relating to either processing or marketing of the product. Who may apply? Independent producers, agriculture producer groups, farmers or ranchers cooperatives, and then a majority controlled producer-based business ventures. So quite a big area there. What's so great about this program is there is extra funds and priority points before a beginning farmer, which if you're under 10 years, you would qualify that. So some years they have their own actual pooling or funds, and then other years they may get priority points. So definitely a priority that way. What they can do is some planning costs such as feasibility studies, developing business plans and marketing. I do know earlier there was a question about grant writing. That is something that some of the funds can go to with that feasibility study, or the business plan or just the marketing. Also can help with the working capital costs related to the actual processing of that value added agriculture products. So for the planning side, we can go up to 75% of grant funds, and then the actual working capital up to 250,000. But everything has to have a 50% match. That is a requirement for the VAPG program. Next slide. The REAP program, we can either do a guarantee of 75%, or we can do grant funds for renewable energy systems or energy efficient improvements. So a lot that we can do with that program. You can either be a farmer or you can be a business owner. The only note on the farmer is you do have to have a 50% gross income coming from farming. That is one of the requirements. Beginning farmer would be under 10 years. I listed quite a few what we can use the funds for. But what we see a lot, especially depending on how wet the corn is, but last year's application, we've had a ton of grain dryers. So we've had new grain dryers, we've had replacement of old grain dryers for more efficient dryers. So that's really been really good with the REAP program. The other thing that we do a lot of is local grocery stores. We've done updated coolers and updated lights where you see the coolers now where they actually have the doors or the higher efficiency. So we've done a lot with that with our REAP program. We do the 75% guarantee, or what we see a lot is the 25% of the eligible costs. If they come directly through us, the 25% of the eligible costs could get them grant funds. And then the last program is the RMAP program. Funding is either for nonprofits, which qualifies as a farmers, ranchers, or business. And this is kind of like the micro loan through FSA, a little bit different, but some similarities there. We can go up to 50,000. And the terms are actually set by the organization with a 10-year max term. With that, what can be purchased is real estate or lease, equipment or working capital. Those two are the big things. I mean, as a farmer, that's definitely, you're looking at equipment if you're getting started, or working capital are huge. So those are two things. And then also a business acquisition. So how this program does is we work through the nonprofits, they get eligible, and then they can disperse this funds either to farmer ranchers or businesses. But do want to mention that farmers and ranchers could qualify through some of these loans through these agencies listed below. So a lot of times with rural development, you don't think of the farm aspects, but we sure do have these programs that can help the farmers, especially the beginning farmers. And if there's any questions, I can help answer them, or I can share them with our rural business team.
Are there any questions for Roxanne?
Yep, there were a few.
All right.
So one of them says, how are the funds allocated nationally?
So it depends on the program. A lot of times we will get a state allocation for each individual program, and depending on what they get, they can request additional program fundings through the national office. And most of the program, especially the REAP, it's a point program, so you'll get points depending on how you rate. But we do get a state allocation. If that's used up, we can go to the national office and request additional funds. But great question.
One more is, can VAPG be used for packaging materials for a product?
That is probably where you might have to have a conversation with one of the specialists with the RBS team. It has to have that value added. So you have to take a raw product and do something with it. So packaging, I don't know, depending on how you word that, if that would 100% qualify, but you actually have to change that product. But if they have additional questions, I can get them to a rural business specialist to have that conversation with them.
And then there was one more that says, how can you find out what nonprofits are in Nevada?
Each state should have a USDA rural development website. And then from there, you could either contact your state office, or if you can go through the rural business tab, a lot of times they may or may not list them. But my suggestion would be get a hold of their state office for rural development, and they can provide a list, because normally each state has their individual list of the nonprofits that they work with. Anything else?
I'm looking one more time on Facebook, and then that looks like that is it.
Okay.
Well, that was great. Lots of good information. I hope people at least got the overview, and we provide a little help navigating all the resources we have at USDA. So thank you, Shatil and Intertribal Ag Council, for hosting us again. And certainly you can reach out to Shatil if you need our contact information. We're absolutely willing to connect you with those places we need to and get you started or expand. You might be new or beginning, you're still under that 10 years and have some more questions or things about the programs, especially things maybe today, if you learn one or two things and said, hey, I'm gonna call my office and find out about it, that would be great. That's what we hope. We threw a lot at you, but hopefully there's that one or two things that you say, hey, I could do this, and there are these USDA resources. We're here to support you. So if there are no other questions, or if you don't have anything else to tell, we certainly thank you and thank everyone for joining, and we will let you wrap it up.
Yes, I just want to thank you guys for coming. I think Jessica had to jump off because she had another webinar, but I just want to say thank you guys for all of the resources that you're providing and all of the feedback that you're taking and working with. Everybody at the Intertribal Ag Council is happy to have you guys on board and doing these webinars with us. So
great.
If there aren't any more questions, let me look. Wait, it looks like we have one more.
Okay.
So it says interest rates for the rural development.
Oh.
For the RMAP program, okay, that is actually set by the nonprofits. So depending on where they're at, they're pretty competitive, but that is the question. Once they apply, the nonprofit would be able to give them that interest rate, but normally very, very reasonable.
Yep. And then I think that's everything. So I want to thank you guys for doing this, and then thank all of the attendees for jumping on and asking questions. We appreciate that. So I hope you guys all have a good day.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you guys.